everyone. We hope that you had a fantastic week. Just a couple of announcements that I have for you. First off, we are still doing our reverse family challenges. So if you have not challenged Miss Amy or I, or have challenged us and we just haven't done your challenge yet, still keep popping suggestions to us. Hopefully we'll get it through and finished by the end of the summer. So secondly, if you are planning to be at church this Sunday, please don't forget to sign up on our online link. You can get that link either on our Facebook page, 5 Point Kids group, or through the parent emails that I send out every Monday. We hope to see you soon. So what if I told you that today at church, the staff announced to everyone that the Lord was leading them to sell the church, that we were going to be packing up this week and moving out? It seemed kind of crazy, right? With no head warning. But here's something even that goes a step further. We don't know where we're going to go. We don't have a building to go to. We don't have plans to build another building. We just don't know where we're going to be next Sunday or if we're going to be able to meet. That would seem insane, wouldn't it? Well, this week, we're going to learn about how Abram moved in a very similar way, but how he trusted God with that move. So this week, we are going to be talking about Abram and God's promise. If you want to, you can turn in your Bibles to Genesis chapter 12 through chapter 13. Before I start reading, I don't know if you've noticed, but we're in a little bit of a different scenery. Can you guess what it is? Let us know if you know where it is in the church. Now that the people of Babel could no longer talk with each other, they spread out over the whole world. Different nations were formed, each with its own language. Terah, a man whose great way back grandfather was Noah's son Shem, settled with his family in a place called Haran. Terah had a son named Abram. Abram lived in Haran with his wife Sarai and his nephew Lot. One day, the Lord spoke to Abram to take his family and leave. God said, "Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you, and I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing." God told Abram he would use him to bless all the families of the earth. Even though Abram did not know where God was sending him, he trusted God's words to him. So when he was 75 years old, Abram moved away from Haran with Sarai, Lot, their servants, and everything they owned. Remember, outside his own country, Abram would not have understood the languages of people he would meet, but God gave Abram faith to obey. God was about to start his plan to rescue people from the curse that came when Adam and Eve first sinned. Along the way, Abram sinned too, but God did not leave Abram. When Abram passed through a land called Canaan, the Lord appeared to him and promised to give the land to Abram and his children. Abram built an altar to the Lord and then continued on his journey. When he arrived safely in Bethel, he built another altar to the Lord. After a great famine forced Abram to move to Egypt, he returned to Bethel to live. In all their travels, the Lord blessed Abram and Lot. Their flocks of animals grew and grew until they filled the land. After a while, there was not enough room for Abram and Lot to stay together. Each of their flocks needed so much land for food and water. Even their shepherds began to argue. When Abram saw that they were running out of space, he asked Lot to continue where he wanted to live. If Lot wanted to go to the left, Abram would go to the right. Lot chose to live in a beautiful valley with lots of grass, rivers, and streams. When his family and herds, Lot traveled away from Abram. He went to the cities of the valley and pitched his tent near the city called Sodom. After Lot left, the Lord spoke to Abram and said, "Lift up your eyes and look from the place where you are, northward and southward, and eastward and westward. From all the land that you see, I will give to you and to your offspring forever." God told Abram he would have so many children and grandchildren that they could not be counted. Just like the specks of dust on the earth can't be counted. Lot chose the best piece of land, but Abram received the promise of God. Through Abram, we all have been blessed, just as God promised, because it is by the death and resurrection of his great far-off grandson Jesus that all of those who believe inherit the promise of Abram forever. So we are to the question and answer portion of our video. Just like the previous weeks, once the question is asked, please pause the video and just discuss it among your family.
The first question is, what is Lot looking at and what is Abram looking at? In this picture, you can see Lot and Abram both looking at the new land that they had gone to. You can see Lot on the left, and he's looking at his beautiful valley. There's lots of grass, there's rivers, there's streams. He was kind of more in the country and had all the kind of resources and what some would say was the better land. Then you look at the other side and you can see Abram looking at his new land. His land didn't have a lot of streams and rivers. It didn't have a lot of grass. He lived more in town and didn't have the resources that they would say would have been the better land. Question number 2, would you rather live in a city or in the country?
Oh, this is an interesting one. Okay, so I grew up in a small town, so it was very, very country life. But the past 3 years, I've lived in New Orleans, and I will say that I have a heart for both. And in an ideal world, I would want to live in a city where there was easy access to like Chick-fil-A, Walmart pickup, pizza delivery, that kind of stuff. But just access to like things to do, but that city be close to the country so that if I ever got homesick, I could very easily just take a drive down the country road, looking at the scenery, just a little reminder of what home is.
I think actually I would rather live in a country, or the country. I do live in a country. And the country because growing up I lived in a city. But for the past 5 years, we lived out in the more rural part, more country part in Alabama, and we did not have Walmart pickup. We did not have Chick-fil-A. We did not have Starbucks. We had none of that stuff. And I kind of got used to it, and I was okay. So I think I would like to live in the country, but have the city like right next to it where I still had access to all that stuff. Question number 3. What did God give Abram that was better than living in town?
So God promised Abram something that was very special and very dear to him. God said that a great nation would come from Abram. That meant that if Abram obeyed God, God would bless Abram and his wife with children. And from their children, the earth would populate and a great nation would be formed to bless the earth. So we hope that you enjoyed this week's Bible lesson. Just as a side note, if you have not guessed where Miss Amy and I are, we are in the choir room. If you've never been in the choir room, you should check it out because it's a pretty amazing space. But just a reminder to sign up for this Sunday if you are planning to come, and this will be a weekly occurrence until further notice. Also send in your challenges for Miss Amy and I and possibly the rest of the staff to do. We hope you have a great week. Bye.